Good morning, welcome to day 52 of Geriatric 1944's Coronavirus Diaries, and we're now all getting back to work. This may indeed be easier said than done. I don't know about you, but what does your work consist of? Well, of course, at 75 technically, I'm retired. Unfortunately, that's only technically, far from the reality. The reality is I'm still very busy doing all the things that I've done before, music and television and various assorted online things like this, writing novels and so on and so forth. But also one of the main things in my life is trying to sort out the broken judicial system, mainly the false allegations industry and the enablers of people like Carl Beach and so on, who actually assist liars in making false allegations and ruining people's lives. This involves all sorts of people, bent lawyers who encourage and all the rest of them, bent PRs. As you well know, my original 2000 year in the year 2000 false allegations, that's when they started, emanated originally from a publicist, Mr. Max Clifford, who assisted his liar in making the original false allegations, of which I was incidentally found totally not guilty on all counts in 2018, but it took an awful long time. Anyway, I've made numerous complaints which are still being studied, quite apart from my original wrongful conviction being examined for appeal by the CCRC, the Criminal Case Review Commission, but also other bodies, the IOPC, which took over from the IPCC. I'm sorry about all these letters. It's the Independent Office for Police Conduct. Now, that's meant to look at how police behave, which I have to tell you, all over Great Britain has become disgraceful. Not, I don't think, intentionally. In most cases, the vast majority of cases, it's police trying to do their job and realising they've got to cut corners, which sometimes involves committing crimes in order to get people who they believe to be guilty into prison, basically. And they do some dreadful things, a lot of which actually lead, as you'll see in my movie, Guilty, to people's deaths, to the deaths of innocent people caused by the stress of these investigations of lies. And often the police assist the liars by giving them hints and tipping them off as various bits and pieces. So yesterday I received a letter, a thick letter from Surrey Police, all about one of my, or in fact two of my, fairly minor complaints, which I agreed with them they could sort out due to what they describe as local resolution, which is Surrey Police examining it themselves and coming to a conclusion. Well, I've got to tell you, as you probably guess, local resolution, oh yeah, it appears the Professional Standards Department of Surrey Police, as of all police forces, have actually really mainly got one goal, and that is brush the complaints under the carpet. And this letter which comes back of mine is an absolutely pure example of how that is done. For instance, they take complaint number one. Now, complaint number one is basically a very simple thing that, based on a speech made by the then Chief Constable of Surrey, Nick F. Grave, who, after making this, jumped ship rapidly and now is with the Met Police, based on that speech in which he said the IPCC, as they then were, the Independent Police Conduct Body, had looked at the behaviour of a couple of senior police officers in a case where somebody had almost been killed and decided that both officers were guilty of gross misconduct. Now, that's very serious. That means they ought to be fired, even possibly prosecuted and sent to jail, but certainly fired, probably without any pension. The Chief Constable, F. Grave, and his deputy, Gavin Stevens, who is now the Chief Constable of Surrey, looked at this and decided, no, these officers behaved just as we would have behaved, and they rejected the complaint. The IPCC wrote back and said, I'm terribly sorry, you can't reject it. We are an independent body. We've looked at it. You now have to find these two officers guilty of gross misconduct, discipline them accordingly. Well, said the Chief Constable and his deputy, if you really insist on taking that stand, we're going to go to judicial review. That means to get a judge look at it and decide whether or not the IPCC are right. Well, the IPCC examined this and thought this is a nightmare. It costs a fortune, both parties, 50 grand a time to go to judicial review, to brief barristers and all that. And at the end of the day, if they lose, if the IPCC lose and the judge finds in favour of the police, the IPCC would have to pay not only their own costs, but also the police costs, probably amounting to something like £100,000. So they backed down. Now, I cited this as an example of how police basically use the system to brush complaints under the carpet. Well, the resolution which I've just received, which I'm complaining about, although I'm not going to bother to appeal because it isn't that important, very deliberately misinterprets what I'm saying, looks at another area entirely, i.e. the original case that the IPCC found against, says quite rightly, I'm not entitled to know anything about that case because I'm not involved in it. As a result, they say that the Chief Constable followed due process, it's the words they always like to use, followed due process and was not wrong to do what he did in that case. Completely missing the point that I'm saying, hang on a moment, this illustrates a general malaise, an unofficial policy by senior police to brush complaints under the carpet. Anyway, that's just one of the many examples of what police do. Another one, which is quite interesting, is they tend to assist the false accusers in all sorts of detail that they can then produce in their statements as evidence against the innocent person they're trying to prosecute. And one of the things they often do is get them to cite events involving, for example, records and music that the offending person has made, i.e. me. And this has happened several times in my cases. For example, one was a track of mine called Sun, Sea, Sand and Sex that was cited as a disco record that the liar first heard me play in a disco. That was the first time he saw me, and it was after that any offences took place. They never did, by the way. I never met that stupid man, and I was found not guilty again of that particular charge. And the date on that record would basically said that the time when the man had met me was when he was, I think, 15. Actually, the date on the record, which we were able to proved that the record hadn't been recorded until 3 years later, when the man would have been 19. Unbelievable. Likewise, in a recent one of my tracks, which I actually recorded and released for Christmas 1978, was claimed to have been heard and involved in a radio interview and everything in early 1977. Almost 2 years earlier, we were able to produce the record and say, no, we're terribly sorry, this is a lie. And in fact, I'm going to play you that record now because summer's coming and it's always a very good time for you and me to celebrate summer. So I'll see you tomorrow. And in the meantime, I suggest you have just one cornetto.
Just one cornetto, give it to me. Delicious ice cream and memory of love by the ice cream side. Just one cornetto, and she just one cornetto unlocked her heart. We were together, we had to part. The sunshine only died can she forget? 12 months I'm waiting for her voice to hear, for her last words to me were, see you next